thought I knew what mattered, until the day I didn't. And what was left when everything was gone was smaller than I figured, and larger than I'd ever known. I had a house on Millbrook Avenue with a yard the neighbors envied. I had a title on a business card and a car I barely needed. I had a calendar so crowded that I missed my daughter's play. I had a wife who tried to tell me, but I was always running late. And then one ordinary winter, the whole thing came apart. The business and the marriage and the life I'd built from heart. I sat inside an empty apartment with a suitcase and a chair, and I looked around at nothing, and I breathed the quiet air. And something strange came over me, not peace exactly yet, but the first honest silence that I'd heard since I forget. When everything was gone, I finally heard myself think. When everything was gone, I stopped running from the brink. When everything was gone, the noise went with it too. And standing in that nothing, I found something that was true, that I had been so busy building, I forgot to build a life. When everything was gone, I finally arrived. I called my daughter on a Tuesday, said I'm sorry for the play. She was quiet for a moment, then she said, "Dad, come stay." And I slept upon her couch for 3 weeks, in a house that smelled like home. And her kids would climb all over me, and I was not alone. My old friend Raymond called me, said, "I heard what happened there." I said, "I lost it all." He told me, "No, you lost what you had planned. And sometimes losing what you planned for is the only way to see what was always standing right behind it, waiting to be free." I didn't know that I was buried underneath the things I owned. Didn't know that I was absent from the only life I'd known. When everything was gone, I finally heard myself think. When everything was gone, I stopped running from the brink. When everything was gone, the weight went with it too. And all the things I thought defined me turned out never to be true. That I was more than what I'd purchased, more than what I'd built or signed. When everything was gone, I finally found what's mine. There is a kind of man who spends his whole life filling rooms with things and noise, and never once asked why. I was that man, and I'm not ashamed of it, because I didn't know what I didn't know. Nobody tells you that the life you're building might be a wall between yourself and living. Nobody tells you that the loss you fear the most might be the thing that saves you in the end. lost a house and found a home and people. I lost a title and found my actual name. I lost a future I had planned and found the present waiting quietly, like it had always been there, because it had. And I'm not saying loss is easy, God, I know it isn't so. I'm not saying what was taken was something you should let go. Some losses are just losses, and the grief is just the grief. And there is no lesson in it, there is only disbelief. But if you're sitting in the nothing of a life that came apart, let me tell you what I found there at the bottom of my heart. Not an answer, not a reason, just a silence and a breath. And inside that breath, the smallest voice that said, "You're still here. You're still here." That's enough. When everything was gone, I thought of what remained. Not the titles and the structures, but the love that had no name. When everything was gone, my daughter held my hand, and Raymond brought me coffee, and I finally understand that the life I'd been so busy building all those years was never in the buildings. It was always right here, in the small and in the simple, in the people who would stay when everything was gone. They were never going away. When everything was gone, I finally came home, not to a house on Millbrook Avenue, but to myself alone. And that was more than enough. That was more than I had known. When everything was gone, I was fine.